in the car.
Yeah.
I might do shot next year because if I burn my 2 days, I could do it in January.
I wish I could do shot. But anyways, we are live on GunTube. We're live on Facebook. We are now live on the YouTubes. So this is for all the YouTube people. Check out guntube.org or check out the Night Strike page on Facebook if you want to get some of the pre-chat, because the pre-chat and some of the post-chat chats happen only on those two platforms. So check those out. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Hit or Miss. I am your host, Night Strike, and tonight we have a ridiculous panel. And I say ridiculous only because what Sarge jumped on wearing.
Yeah.
And I don't mean his beard. All right. So let me introduce my panelists tonight, and we will get going with the topics. All right. So first up, we've got the man, the myth, the legend, the Cluckster himself. We've got Gizzard Gary.
Hello, hello, hello. Give them the bird. Thanks for the invite.
All right. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Good. All right. Next up, we've got Boomer. What's going on, Boomer?
Not too much. Thanks for the invite. Glad I could be here. Not working tonight, so yeah.
Good. You're always welcome. I give you a link if you can't come. If you can't join, you know what? You don't have to. Maybe next time. So. All right, and in at the last minute, we've got Dusty. What's going on, Dusty?
Good.
Okay, short and simple. Good. Good. All right. All right. Next up, we got Sandhills. What's going on, Sandhills?
Howdy. Thanks for the invite.
All right, no problem. Anytime. And then
Can
you want to plug something?
Go ahead. I would, just because I'm probably going to duck out before we're done, like always. So I want to invite everybody to join us immediately following Hit or Miss, or 9 o'clock Central Time, 10 o'clock Eastern, whichever comes first, for 2A Tuesday. I think we might get some lively discussion going again tonight. But what I want to plug is next week. Next week, we're planning on having a discussion about females carrying guns, how being armed is a force multiplier against bigger, potentially stronger attackers and such as that. So I want to request that everybody who hears this, if you are a female or if you know a female who you think would be willing to join our chat, I want to get more than just one lady in the room. I want to have more than just Sandhill Sweetheart joining us to give a female perspective next week if we can. So, and I don't mind if they don't agree. I'd really love to have some discourse and debate on this, and cover maybe both sides of the coin or multiple facets if there are that. So anybody who you think would join or you yourself want to join, open to all genders, but we want to get more than one lady in the house if we can next week. But tonight should be fun too. So thanks, Night Strike, for letting me plug that.
Okay, no problem. All right, and next up we have Sarge from C4 Defense.
Well, guys, I appreciate the invite. I'm busy sending a side chat there to Gary. I'm glad you liked my pre-show outfit, and that was only for the people on GunTube and Facebook. So
remember, also the people on GunTube and Facebook can see what we're typing on the side chat.
Oh, can they?
Yeah,
cool.
It pops up.
Oh, cool.
So
I'll have to remember that. Thanks for the warning.
Yep.
Only like 2 weeks late, but thanks.
Well, most of the time we're not saying anything or doing anything, that bad. But if you put your address or your phone number, it's going to pop up. So don't do that. Wait for the after chats. No one's watching. All right. Last but certainly not least, we've got Travis P11. What's going on, Travis?
Hey, not much, man. I appreciate the invite as always. Guys, cheap plug as usual. Check out Caliber Corner, 8 a.m. Central Time, the only time zone that matters, over on gunchannels.com. Got a lot of the guys you see here on the panel and gals are also guests on the show too. So, yeah, make sure you check it out. Variety of topics every week.
All right, all right. And tonight we've got a couple topics. We were scrambling last minute because Night Strike was wolfing down his food, and we were just shooting the breeze in the pre-chat as always. But Travis and Gary helped me out. So did Sarge. So we got a couple things to talk about tonight. So we're gonna start off by a home invader attacks 3 women on their way to church, and they take him out. So this is interesting.
I'd say there's divine intervention on this one.
I mean, yeah. So I'm gonna say it's funny where this is coming from, considering that law they just passed in Detroit. But yeah, 3 Detroit women, ages 29, 55, and 75, were getting ready to leave for Sunday services when they were faced with a serious threat. An unknown man who had been lurking outside their home confronted them, grabbed the 55-year-old homeowner by her coat, and forced all 3 women back into the house. Once indoors, the homeowner and her daughter repeatedly told the man to leave, but he refused. That's when the homeowner grabbed a gun and fired twice to defend herself and the other 2 women. She hit him in the chest at least once, and the man, who was in his mid-30s, was declared dead at the scene when the officers arrived.
Oh, well.
So authorities aren't taking any legal action against the women, believing this was a justified self-defense shooting. Which, quite honestly, if it's 1 against 3, yeah. Yeah. But again, it is if it is, I can't hear over Sergeant's kid. If it's an unknown person and they follow you inside, I suspect that they would legitimately in fear for their well-being and safety. Explained David Balash, a retired Michigan State Police gun expert who was interviewed by the press. They have every right to defend themselves. I was about to go to church when I heard the shots, said the women's neighbor. They put up the crime tape, and I went to church. Do you think you could have pulled the trigger like your neighbor did? She says, yes, she answered instantly. I don't own a gun, but if I did and they were in my house, yes. And that was from the neighbor. So, Dusty, you're in Michigan. Tell us what the Michigan laws are for self-defense, like if there's any castle doctrine or whatnot.
Well, in your house, that is the big key on all this. As long as that person was in their house, you have every right to shoot them. And the castle doctrine goes for outside your house. But once somebody breaks your safe zone, it's in your right.
Okay. So does Michigan have any stand your ground or anything? Or is it Michigan you're forced to retreat?
In Michigan, you are forced to retreat unless you're in your house.
Okay. That pretty much sums it up right there. That answers the whole thing. So because the criminal went and forced everyone back into their home and was trying to, I don't know, do God, Lord knows what to them. One would assume, what do you do with three women? I don't even want to fathom it. But again, because he did that, he pretty much opened himself up to the whole situation, didn't
he? Yep.
I would say so.
It's always good to start off with a happy ending. It's kind of nice when somebody just legally defends himself and it just shows. And the funny thing is I didn't hear about this anywhere at all on mainstream media today.
No, and you won't. You won't hear anything where someone defends themselves with a firearm legally on the news, because the news is owned by the left, and the left just want to push their narrative. And their narrative is let's brainwash the people and get them to vote for us so we can take everything away from them. And they don't come out and say it, but all of their actions point to that. Big surprise.
Yes, and that's news an hour away from me, and I never even heard it.
That's funny. Funny.
That is funny.
I got a question for you guys, and maybe, I don't know, Sarge, if you're on or listening, maybe you can answer this one, or I don't know if Sarge is there, but okay, so this defensive shooting happened. Do you think their weapon was confiscated as evidence until the investigation was finalized? Or not? Because I'm curious if they're now going to have to be disarmed for so many months or weeks until the case is closed and they get their weapon back. I'm kind of curious what the turnaround time is on a self-defense shooting, because it involves a death. So I'm kind of curious if, you know, they were brought in for questioning, and, you know, I always wonder about that. You know, when you do the self-defense shooting, just how intense is the follow-up and what happens to your weapon once it's used. So,
Yeah, Sarge, can
I
you,
know he may have stepped away. There he is.
Yes.
did you catch all that?
No, I had to fix an internet issue, but it's fixed. What did I miss?
when you have a self-defense shooting and it involves the death of the perpetrator, how long is your weapon confiscated from you, and for how long are you without your weapon until it's returned to you?
Well, yeah, it has to be confiscated because it's used in a potential crime.
Okay.
It's confiscated in a suicide too, because they have to find out exactly what happened. Once everything is presented, once the investigating agency is done, they present it to their district attorney or their state's attorney, whatever that state mandates, and they decide whether to charge or not charge. Once that decision is made, your attorney just presents a document to the court for it to be turned back over, and then it is turned back over.
Okay.
But it has to be once they decide whether they're prosecuting or not.
Any average time span something like that could take? Are we looking at like a month or 2 months, or depends on the jurisdiction, the city, the backlog?
How complicated it is and how cut and dry it is.
Yeah.
Like, there's some that could go on for over a year while they're figuring out everything. If there's toxicology that has to be done to find out the person's whether they were on any type of substance. I mean, it could be extended, typically not a terribly long time. Within a few months, they should have come up with their decision to charge or not charge. So, and then if you are charged, then it would be once everything went through and you were found guilty or not guilty.
So you're better.
Hopefully, none of us will ever be in that situation.
That reminds me of one of the cases where it's a different situation, of course, but where I read it a few years ago, where a guy's gun was stolen from him out of his house. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and it was used in a few crimes. They caught the perpetrator. They caught They caught him with the firearm on him, and they had the firearm in evidence. But they waited, and this was back in the 80s. It's like the mid 80s. But they waited until a few years ago to return the firearm to its owner.
A few years ago?
Yeah, we're talking like 2 or 3 years ago.
Wow.
They had it for like 20 years.
They had it for over 20 years.
So someone wasn't doing their job and keeping up with the evidence properly.
Yeah.
Oh,
We had
he
something.
did have a lawyer, and he did it. He was trying to get it back because they had it in their I guess wherever they store the weapons, Sarge. Their evidence room, I guess.
Mhm.
But I want to know how much dust was on it if it's been sitting there for over 20 years.
Yeah.
God. So
It better not be rusty.
if I'm going to do a defensive shot, I best to grab for the high point then instead of the SIG, huh?
You may want to.
Hey, just
Or you
remember,
just get
guys,
two of the same gun.
that gun is a tool, and it once it's done its job, you may be without it for a little bit, but you'll get your tool back eventually. Have another one handy.
That's a good reason to have more than one gun. Have several.
Oh, yeah. God.
Maybe that's the mark in the 4 column, Travis, for carrying that Sky CPX2.
I'm going to buy one of every color, so that way.
Yeah, that way, if you did ever have to use it and it did actually work for you, that you don't really care if you don't get it back.
I don't have it anymore, so it doesn't matter, but I see where you're coming from.
And if that firearm is used, if you end up having to have, a long drawn out case, like if you don't have to, if you use it and the person dies, then the case, it may not be that long. But if it ends up a wounded victim and it goes to a long drawn out trial process, and you're not getting that thing back until that case is, finished. So, we had a firearm that was stolen for a company I worked for, and, it was stolen, and, it was finally turned up on the coffee table of some drug house, and we didn't get that thing back for a few years until they were done with that case. I know it's not the same, but it's still that, similar stuff. You're not going to get it back.
The biggest thing is be comfortable with what you carry and be good with it, practice with it, know the gun. That's the biggest thing. Eventually you'll get it back. If you did the right thing, you'll get it back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think too, that would behoove, again, it goes back to personal accountability and being responsible, but make sure that what is and is not your legal right to defend yourself or someone else. And, don't be using your gun for questionable things.
Yep. And that's key right there. Know your laws. Know your state's laws. Know the states you're traveling through. If you travel a lot, you got to know all your laws.
I think Ghost said it well last night when he just got done with his Jaeger training, and he said, if you can't answer the question, I'm paraphrasing, if you can't answer the question immediately, whose life am I saving, don't use your gun. So that's really not a bad train of thought. So,
and that's really the correct answer.
Yeah. Whose life am I saving at this point right now? And if the answer is no one, then you don't use it.
Or even if the answer is a whole room full of people or whatever. I mean, if you can't specifically say this person had a gun leveled at them, or this person was in danger of, severe bodily harm or rape or kidnapping, whatever, then you kind of come off as a vigilante more than anything else, don't you?
Well, that's true to a degree, because you got to ask yourself a few different questions before you even draw your firearm or prepare to shoot your firearm. Is that person actually a threat? Who started it? What happened? If you can't answer any one of these certain questions, then don't draw your gun, don't fire your gun.
I guess the reason I said that is because I'm thinking of some of the arguments made after, like the theater shooting. We all hear this argument. Well, if you're in a crowded theater full of people, it's dark, and you're returning fire, you're more likely to hurt somebody else than to do anybody any good. Well, I can't speak for anyone else, but personally, if I'm in a dark, crowded theater and it's chaos and there's shots coming, I'm not gonna return fire unless I know exactly who's shooting at whom and I'm sure of my target. So, I mean, just because people legally carry a gun doesn't mean that they're willing to draw it and just start shooting like people do on TV. That's not real.
Right.
No, and if there's somebody behind that shooter and you shoot an innocent person behind that shooter, you're going to be just as bad as the shooter.
Exactly right. And whether it's law enforcement or legally armed civilian, you're still liable for every bullet that exits the muzzle of your gun.
In all seriousness, guys, are you going to sit there and think about that? Or are you going to stop what's trying to kill you?
It depends on if it's trying to kill me. My first thought is,
if you're in a movie theater,
I'm probably not going to be in a theater by myself. My first thought is to make sure that the person I'm with is getting safety.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a gun and someone comes in a theater and starts shooting, you better shoot them quick because they're going to get to you really quick.
I would probably try that. I don't know. I've never been in that position, and I've never been in any kind of training to simulate such a thing. I don't know what would happen. I don't know whether or not I'd freeze up, and Lord willing, I'll never find out.
Well, I mean, seriously, I mean, are you responsible for the terminal resting place of every bullet? Yes, to a degree. How many times have you seen in New York where they have, anytime they have a shooting in New York, some innocent bystander gets hurt because there's people everywhere. I mean, they shoot people on a regular basis by accident, and they're not found. There's nothing comes of it other than I'm sure they sue the city because the city has money. But if you're in a movie theater and bullets start coming your way and you're going to lay there and worry about civil repercussions and get killed, because that's not going to do you any good. You're right. You won't lose your house. You won't lose your job. You won't lose any of that stuff because you'll be dead. You're going to have to get some rounds downrange pretty quick. And hopefully, your training, pays off and you put them into the bad guy. But hey, if they accidentally hit somebody else, I would definitely take my chances versus going out in a body bag.
Also, another thing is if you carry a gun, I honestly think that you should carry either a flashlight yourself or like an actual like small flashlight, like a little O light or even a Streamlight HLX. I have one that has a clip on it, and I carry everywhere, and that thing's 500 to 1,000 lumens instantly. Like if you have a handgun, you can easily use that with your handgun.
I think there is something that's missed that we need to address here, is that by using the example of the movie theater, you're literally using the worst possible example of a situation to get into where you have the highest likelihood of not being able to see who the hell's shooting at you.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these theater shootings, they take place from somebody who goes all the way to the back of the theater and starts shooting down. It's very rare. I think the Batman shooting, where he came in that side door where it would be easy to see who's shooting at you. If you're sitting in a movie theater and all you know is you're hearing gunshots from behind you, you're not going to see where it's coming from. You might see some muzzle flash, but you're not going to, your eyesight at that point is not going to be to a level where you could reliably shoot. Now, if the movie's relatively empty, then maybe you take some pop shots in the direction you see muzzle flash. That's fine. But, I mean, there's, as somebody who thinks about that every time I go to a movie, and I go to a lot of movies, that's just something you have to understand. I mean, almost any other situation is self-defense shooting situation. You're going to have a better opportunity, and it's a better situation where exactly like what Sarge is saying, which is pull the gun and shoot. Try and save your life. Try and save the lives of other people. If somebody's already shooting a gun, yes, you are responsible for the rounds around you. And if something bad happens, I mean, you could get charged with something. It wouldn't be murder. You could get charged with manslaughter if something really, really, truly horrific happened and they determined you were incredibly negligent. So you do have to be responsible for every round you put down range. But between training and being able to judge a situation, your first instinct should be to pull the gun and go into that mindset of, okay, somebody's trying to kill me, or somebody's trying to kill the person I'm standing next to, or whatever the situation may be, or there's an active shooter, or pick your scenario where somebody is, shooting a firearm in your general direction. The most important thing is to pull it out and try and return fire to take that person out before they do even more damage. I think that's priority number one. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, there may be some issues. You could have over penetration. You could miss and hit somebody in the leg or something like that. I mean, who knows? That is a chance that you take, and hopefully you've trained enough, and you've been able to get yourself in a situation where you won't freeze up. It's hard for anybody that's never been there to say whether or not they will or won't. I've certainly never had anybody shooting at me. I've had to pull a gun once. But it wasn't because somebody was shooting at me. But even still, it's hard to say what will happen in the future, but hopefully you've done the training and what you can or can't do. But you need to get in that mindset. I don't want to be putting myself constantly in a mindset of, well, I want to judge the entire situation first before I decide to pull my gun. I don't want to do that, because then you're gone. You're dead. And like I said, the movie theater is just a really bad example, I think, because it's, and anybody knows. I mean, you go to a movie theater sometime and just sit down midway, front row, whatever, and turn around and see if you can see anything more than 2-3 rows behind you. And you're going to be like, no. So, but either way, I think in a situation like that, if it's coming from behind you, the best choice is to get down on the floor behind the seats while you assess whether or not you're going to pull your gun or try to get out. But In every other scenario I can think of, you pull the gun, you dig into that training that you have, and you try and hit the target. That should be priority number one.
If you're in fear for your life, you're going to be in fear for your life. You're not going to be in fear for your stuff. You're going to be in fear for your life, and you better try to save your life and your family that's around you. And third down that line is the general public. You know, yourself, your family, and then everybody else. You know, it's what you and your training will pay off, and you will hit your target. You will be fine if you're in that scenario. You're not going to freeze up. You'll get your rounds on target. I feel confident. You just got to believe in yourself.
The other part to that too is like in that particular scenario, know your surroundings, know where you're at, know the exits. You know, I'm big when I go to like a bar and like that or a restaurant and I'm sitting down. I'm sitting where I can see every entrance, every exit, and know my exits and have a plan. You know, you gotta have a plan.
Well, I think most of us do that, right? Like I think most of us in the community we reside in, especially online, we kind of put ourselves in that mindset. To me, I think it's amazing that more people don't. But you know, you tell people that and they go, "What are you, just paranoid? There's always going to be an active shooter." Well, no, but you're prepared, right? Like chances are none of us will ever be in that situation. Yeah, fortunately, right? But that doesn't mean you don't at least try. Yeah, I mean, it's like you know what? The chances of these brand new tires blowing a tire on me is pretty slim, so I don't need to carry a spare tire. You know, it's just, you know, at a certain level, you make the decision to at least, and it's not like it takes effort to pay attention to those things.
You don't wear your seatbelt because you plan on crashing either.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I always think to myself, maybe I am a little paranoid, but am I paranoid enough?
Hey, you're not paranoid.
It's prepared.
You've got to think about this because, like Matt said, you're probably never going to be in an active shooter scenario. But if you are, when the coach calls your number, you only got seconds to react.
Yeah. It's true.
So it's
absolutely.
Like I said,
and the thing is, and it's not. It's gotten to the point to where, okay, well, you're just paranoid. You're this or that. That's not even a correct word. I mean, you know, being prepared for this type of stuff used to be human nature. You know, it used to be that people would look at a scenario. Okay, well, this could happen, therefore I'm going to do this, regardless of what it was, right? Like the natural state of human beings up till about 100 years ago was basically to be what people today would consider a prepper. You know what I mean?
To
think about all those bad things that could happen and try to prepare accordingly. I mean, my grandmother kept all kinds of dry foods and all kinds of stuff in case. I mean, as you know, she was literally concerned that, you know, growing up when she did through World War II and everything else and the Cold War, if there's ever a nuclear bomb, you know, she had dried milk in the house and all kinds of other stuff. And she, even though she wasn't a gun person, she kept a little revolver in the house and, you know, thought about those things. That was natural for somebody from you know, her generation, you know, being born and coming up through the 30s and the 40s and, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it used to be human nature. Now we call it paranoia, which is ridiculous. It's really just it's people going back to you know, a state of mind that we used to have to live in as human beings. It used to be necessary to think about what could kill me today. You know what I mean?
I'm still of the opinion that a little paranoia is healthy.
Yeah, well, I just don't consider it paranoia. I consider it common sense.
And so is a little bit of fear. That'll keep you grounded.
Yeah, fear keeps you alive and keeps you prepared. And the key word is prepared. I mean, there's a big difference between paranoia and, you know, preparedness. You know, being prepared means you're ready for pretty much and have a mindset of, you know, anything that might come your way. And it's not paranoia means you're scared. There's a difference between, you know, that of being scared of something. You know, I've seen guys that have been shot at and they completely froze. And it makes you a little mad when you're getting shot at and somebody that's supposed to be returning fire completely freezes and is locked up and they can't function. They don't move. And it makes you kind of a little mad. And, you know, some did it and then some recovered. You know, it's not a normal occurrence. So it's understanding that they might not have their bearing, but then they gather themselves and maybe then return fire. But somebody that just completely freezes and can't function when they're supposed to have the training, you never know how somebody's going to act.
And that's one of those things that, you know, I think most people, I think by and large, and I think history has proved this, whether it be just recent history, the last few decades of people owning guns and defending themselves, or you just go throughout human history, most people in that scenario will do what needs to be done, especially people who have training. Most people will take an action to try and save themselves or save somebody that they love or whatever when a dire situation pops up. The vast majority of human beings will pull that trigger when need be. That is human nature. But there are some people where they will freeze up. Fortunately, that's not the norm.
Yeah.
You know, that's human history, just self-defense history in this country alone, much less all over the world with firearms. If you want to get real specific, has taught us that most people will pull that trigger even with no training whatsoever, scared out of their minds, not understanding exactly what the situation is. They will still pull that trigger to save themselves.
The self-preservation instinct that's, you know, just ingrained in us as human beings generally overrides any kind of, you know, left, you know, mentality or anything. Even, you know, they will protect themselves. It's just
absolutely
human nature.
You have somebody, you put somebody who's hardcore anti-gun in a situation where somebody's trying to kill them and there happens to be a gun there for them. I guarantee you they pick up that gun and they pull the trigger.
Very much.
I guarantee you 99 times out of 100 that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
That's just human nature.
Oh, the irony.
So let's bring this conversation back around, because I have a question.
I had a rebuttal.
Yeah. Yeah, we know you've got a butt. That's fine. All right. Gary brought this topic up, and it has to do with social media. And it's basically, should you need to pass a social media check to get a firearm?
Oh, God, this is that New York crap.
Yeah. It is. I do want to go over
ridiculous.
This. So
We already covered that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
We're going over it again.
Come on, whoever. This is ridiculous. This is straight up progressive anti-gun leftist control bullshit. Let's find another reason why we can say somebody shouldn't be able to buy a gun or carry a gun or whatever the hell it is. Okay, what you say on social media doesn't mean a damn thing. Okay, social media is a platform that is so different than talking to somebody face to face. Although most of us, like those of us in here, we do use it as if we were all sitting around in a room talking to each other and having a conversation. Judging somebody, dear God, I can't imagine what people would really think of me if they judged me by stuff I shit post on Facebook. You know what I mean?
Facebook and YouTube.
Employers do that to people, though. When they hire them, they'll do a Google search in your name and see what's out there.
Sure, but putting anything up there that's
and this is why you should never have any sort of social media in your actual name.
I just want to. I will put this out there. I don't like using social media. Okay, I don't mind talking to you guys. I don't mind having a conversation.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you don't mind.
Doesn't mind.
He doesn't mind. I don't mind dealing with you assholes.
I have to.
I don't mind, talking to you guys and whatnot. It's just I don't like the idea of social media in the first place. I didn't like it when it came out. I'm still not a fan of it, but I have to use it because really the only way to get my message out there, for what it's worth, of course, is to use social media, because everybody else is using it and they're trying to throw everything else down our throats, and I don't want it. So I feel push back.
I feel the exact opposite. I love social media. I think social media is an amazing tool that has helped a lot of things, including gun rights, us spreading the word, us doing things. Remember 2012, 2013? When every politician either stood silent in the face of Obama and the Democrats' proposed gun controls after Sandy Hook, or were actively on board with those things. Who stopped that from happening? Was it your local congressman? Was it your senator? No, it was you. It was you. It was social media that allowed us to go to the state capitals all across this country back in 2013. Okay, that was social media.
My state senator was the one who went on that federal national TV with his AR-15 and said, "You're not going to."
Do you think he stopped anything?
No, I don't think he stopped.
Do you think he stopped? Remember, the people that would have voted for gun control had the majority in the House and the Senate and the presidency. Do you think that your one congressman stopped that? No. We stopped that by scaring the shit out of our representatives. That's what happened. And we could not have done that without social media.
Now, well,
yeah,
saying, Lindsey
now,
Graham.
that's not to say that. Look, it is a double-edged sword. There is no doubt about that. Okay, there is absolutely no doubt about that. It is a double-edged sword, and we take the good with the bad, and sometimes the good outweighs the bad, and sometimes the bad outweighs the good. Expanding communication, to me, as far as I'm concerned, is ultimately not a bad thing, even though some people do abuse it. I think that none of us in here would know each other. None of us in here would, for those of us that went to Tulsa, for instance, okay, we'd never know we exist. We would never have had the conversations we've had. We'd never have been inspired to do the things that we've done. Night Strike, can you say that without social media, you would even be doing would you even be doing live chats right now? No,
I wouldn't. No, and I'm not. I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing with you. I just don't like. I don't like what social media has become.
Now, when I first read that article and saw this, my first thought was, it's not about the social media, and it's not about rooting out the people who have made threatening comments or whatever. It's another way just to deter gun sales. Yeah. Because if this would pass, how many people are going to be unwilling to give up their accounts and their passwords? Therefore, that means that they're just not going to buy any guns, and it's going to be a de facto gun ban without banning anything because there just won't be any sales.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Don't think that them saying, "Oh, you need to do this or that to get a gun." What they're trying to do is the end goal of the left. It doesn't matter whether we're talking to the communists, the socialists, the progressives, or even hell, the moderates. Even though the moderates are probably more Republican than the whole entire party. That's besides the point. The fact is, the Democratic Party's stance as a whole right now is we want to get rid and repeal the Second Amendment because we don't like anybody who's not us having firearms.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their end goal.
That's when the first time someone said that. It's usually they're just against firearms, but they don't want anyone besides
them from having firearms, even if that means they themselves are breaking the law. But again, these are also the same people that are encouraging people who aren't citizens of this country to come in here illegally and break the law and ignore the fact that they're breaking the law as they cross the border into our country. These are the same people.
Yeah, but for almost 100 years now, we've had people legislating who can and can't have firearms based on their own privileges and not outlawing these guns, just making it to where certain people can't have them.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's right. I don't like it. Damn it. The Second Amendment says the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed.
Here we go. There it is.
Shall not be infringed.
Wind it up, baby. Wind it up.
Give him the bird.
Didn't they try this already?
Except for these people, except for the people who are on social media that saying all these crazy things, or these fucking Antifa people that are dressed up as fucking communists. It says shall not be infringed.
It really is the equivalent of somebody coming along and saying that, oh, well, see, when they meant freedom of speech and freedom of religion, they only meant freedom of speech, when you're in a public forum, or they only meant freedom of speech or freedom of religion if you were going to be a Protestant, or it's the ridiculous. It's as ridiculous. They don't do that with any other amendment to the Constitution. No other amendment to the Constitution gets twisted and well, what does this mean today? Wait, quartering soldiers? No, that means something completely. No, every other amendment is perfectly clear, as the second is. But yeah, they spend all this time. It's again, you got to understand. You go back, you look at where this came from. You look at the beginnings of this. You look at the gun control. I mean, it started because they were afraid of black people having guns, and that rolled into other aspects of society in places like New York, which was the first state to actually put state laws on the books in the early 20th century, I believe, which was also very racist. But it also had to do with the progressive movement that was coming up very early on in the 20th century. That was open, very, very open. That, well, look, this is all about control. It's all about control. And we know better than you. And that's why you have people like Margaret Sanger who wanted to eradicate black people. You have people like George Bernard Shaw, who was using his platform as a very successful playwright and author and all this stuff to come out and be the spokesman. He was the face of the progressive era at that time, along with people like Woodrow Wilson and Teddy Roosevelt. Both were also right there on the progressive bandwagon, even though they were on two opposite sides of the political spectrum. And they both were like, we know better than you.
Republican, though.
Yeah, I know, but he was still a progressive. He thought he knew better than everybody else. And even though he was, everybody loves to go, oh, well, he was pro-gun. Was he really? He was more pro-gun than the Democrats were. He was more pro-gun than let's say, a Woodrow Wilson was. But he still thought that the government knew better than you and should be able to tell you what to do. He was a big government progressive. He just happened to be a Republican big government progressive. He was the John McCain of that era. Okay, that's what he was. That's what Teddy Roosevelt was. But he gave us the national park system, yes, because he thought that the states and the individual people didn't have a right to control that land. That's why he did it. He thought he had to step in as the federal government and make those decisions for the states and for individuals and take that land. And in many cases, he took that land from private citizens. Okay, Teddy Roosevelt was a big government progressive. Okay, I don't know why people. Oh, I like Teddy. Oh, good for you. Good for you. You like Teddy Roosevelt. Great. But that was the mindset of the era. When you've got people like George Bernard Shaw going out there,
you've never experienced a federal park, a federal or a state park. You never enjoyed a state park.
Okay.
You've never been to a park because that was the end result, and you've never enjoyed the park like everyone else, right? You've never done that, right?
Well, I mean, when I was at Colorado, yeah, but not in Texas, no, because I think we've got one in Texas. Texas is mostly privately owned land.
Trees in Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
look, I'm not saying that you don't get some benefit off of it, but that does not take away from the fact that you have. This is even where it wasn't even where I was trying to go with this conversation, but that does not take away from the fact that Teddy Roosevelt was a big government progressive that took land away from people, that took land away from individual citizens, took land away from the states because he thought that the government knew better than you. And it was his job to be everybody's daddy. Okay, he thought the government was there, the elites were there, of which he was one, and of which he had many friends who were a part of this, okay, that should control what should happen. He was just Republican when he was doing it, you know? So he wasn't out there trying to hurt black people like the Democrats were at the time, okay? And he wasn't there trying to take guns away like the Democrats were at the time. But make no mistake, he was still a big government progressive that thought the government should be, you know, your papa and tell you what to do. That was who Teddy Roosevelt was. So I don't, you know, I get it. Oh, you get to enjoy the state land. Great. That's awesome. Okay? But that's like saying, "Oh, well, I got to go to school safely today because we outlawed guns." Oh, the government thought it was okay to protect, to make the right decision for you. You either go with freedom or you go with, well, I can get a little benefit here and there. So I don't give a shit about the federal park systems. I don't care. I've gotten through my entire life without having to worry about them. You know? So I get it for those people that do enjoy it and get to go onto a federal land and go hunting for a hell of a lot cheaper than I can go hunting. That's great. But understand why that happened and understand what was taken away from a lot of people, what freedoms were taken away from people and from the states that you enjoy that in and from the communities that used to own that land and care for that land. Understand what cost that came at so that you can go out there and hunt cheap.
Now,
you know what I mean?
I will agree with you that we need to take away all that land from California because they aren't using it properly.
No, they're not. They're not maintaining it. That's why they got all the damn fires.
They're letting it burn until a mudslide comes along when it rains.
Wasn't the fire started by somebody's baby reveal with tannerite?
No. They don't know.
I heard a campfire, but then there's some other dude on YouTube saying it was a chunk of a meteorite or a comet or something. I don't know what.
Yeah.
I finally read an article. It was like 47,000 acres because of a baby reveal with tannerite.
I thought it was a
day or the other day.
You know what? Did you see the report? And we're taking it completely off track again. But did you see the report? It came out like a year ago where, oh crap, who was it? It was either the Washington Post or there was some big, nationwide newspaper that put out this whole article. And you can go and look it up. There was a meme floating around, and then I checked to see if it was actually true. Oh, damn, was it the Washington Post or New York Times or something like that? Like a year ago, They actually, the headline of the article was something along the lines of experts agree that California is likely to have greater wildfires due to forestation mismanagement. And then fast forward to last month, that same newspaper puts up Trump blames mismanagement while experts agree that it's global warming that caused forest fires and all this other bullshit. It's so hypocritical. I mean, yeah. Have you seen some of the videos that are coming out from California? I said Florida, didn't I? I meant California. So where you look at some of the forests that they have there, how they're so mismanaged. There's just dead tinder everywhere. It's just begging to be lit up because they don't. Anyway, I don't know, get off on a little tangent there, but
No,
So
please.
that forest fire that was for the baby reveal, that was in Arizona.
Was it Arizona? Okay. I know I saw a thing on that. I didn't know. I thought it was that one. But still, that sucks.
Yeah.
That's little misuse of the stuff.
All right, so we got a few topics to go through. I don't want to talk about this one, so we're not going to talk about it.
oh, come on.
No,
You got to at least mention
So-
what it is.
it's ridiculous. I wanted to go over the armed Antifa members in Seattle this weekend in that rally. You guys heard about that, right?
Yeah.
I don't.
My viewpoint is if they're legal gun owners, they have the right to carry.
Well, I don't know. Doesn't Seattle have a law saying you can't open carry in Seattle?
If it's against the law, then absolutely it's against the law.
Oh, you
Yeah,
can't
but
do
it is.
anything in Seattle. Putting aside all the crap
That's
that's been
where this
passed
is-
in Washington,
this is.
Seattle's 10 times worse than the state as a whole.
So apparently, all these Antifa members were able to go and carry firearms in the middle of Seattle in their their rally against pro-Constitution and pro-America.
I mean, let's be honest. Okay, as we have seen before, the video we saw last month, where the police just stood back and let Antifa harass people and beat up cars and pull that old dude that got out of his car and they started beating him up and direct traffic and do all this other stuff. The mayor's already come out and ordered the police not to interfere with Antifa. Okay, look, they are going to ignore the rule of law for Antifa. Period. They've already shown that. They've proven this.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's nothing you can say that surprises me at this point. If that was a bunch of gun owners, right, all hell would break loose in Seattle, right? If that was a bunch of conservatives, if that was a bunch of Trump supporters wearing MAGA hats or whatever, every one of them would be in jail. Every damn one of them, because that's Seattle. They're going to excuse it. Okay. That's just how it is. I mean, it's infuriating, but what are you going to do? The mayor has already come out and given a pass to them publicly. Of course, he says he does it. Well, we don't want to put our police in such. Nah, shut up. Everybody knows that he's an incredibly left-hearted mayor. So, yeah, I mean, it's
is that a thing?
Yeah, left-hearted. Oh, it absolutely is.
Okay.
Left-hearted is it's an actual mental deficiency. Left-heartedness actually leads to Trump derangement syndrome.
I don't think we want to go down that route.
They both go hand in hand. So, but yeah, left-heartedness is it's a serious disease. It really is.
Almost as bad as the disease is ligma. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
What's crazy about that Portland, the Antifa people walking around with their AR-15s in Portland, they said there's a video journalist that was trying to cover the whole event, and he was basically cut off by a bunch of armed Antifa members, and they told him you're not going past this point in Portland.
Where they asked them, they're like, "Do you want to die?"
No,
Something
that's the same. No, the guy was from Portland, and he was in Seattle.
Oh, I thought it was in Portland. I thought it was in Portland.
No, the whole protest was in Seattle. But the guy who he was trying to get through was from Portland.
Oh, okay, okay. But they said, the cops told the guy to leave because he was going to be inciting violence. It's like, wait a minute, who's actually armed here? Who's the person that's creating the high stress environment? It's not the journalist. He's just reporting the news, So yeah,
I mean, it's situations like that where you wish. Yeah, because it's not illegal. So you wish that you could just gather a group of several hundred people on the opposite side and just go, "Hey, fuck it, we're coming in." You know what I mean? To counteract that insanity, that absolute heart. And I'm not even it's not even about being a Trump supporter or whatever. Somebody needs to, on some level, counteract this ridiculousness. And I'm not talking about going in there and starting fights or carrying. They take these places. They take Seattle. They do this stuff in areas where they know that they're not trying this shit in Texas, for instance, right? Like this shit ain't happening in Texas. All right, this shit ain't happening in area. They go where they feel comfortable to break laws, and they know that government is going to either step aside or, in Seattle's case with the mayor, be on their side. You need groups of people to step up. When you got 100 Antifa people show up, you need 100 motherfuckers to show up and just stand there and go, nah, fuck y'all. We're just as big as y'all. Go ahead and start something. And I know that sounds bad. And that's basically what was the Proud Boys? Isn't that kind of what they were doing? Yeah. I think on some level.
Yeah, there's been some videos out there that show groups that have stood in their way and stood up to them and put them back on their heels and sent them running.
Yeah, that's what people need to do. And I go back and forth on this because you don't want to. The answer to this ridiculous isn't necessarily to start more violence. But, again, I'll go back to, was it Charlottesville? Was it Charlottesville? What was the one with the tiki torches? Was that Charlottesville from last year? I can't remember. I can't remember where that was, but the one where they went up there and said, "Jews will not replace us," like a bunch of fucking idiots.
What the hell?
Jesus.
You don't remember this?
I didn't hear that one.
It was last year. It was the big one. It was the one that they talked about all over. It was the one before the one where the guy ran over the other person in his Mustang.
A new challenger appears.
Yeah, it was the first big one that started getting national attention, where they tried to blame Trump for racism. It was the first big one that happened in 2017 after he got elected president. And it was a bunch of alt-righters, which, as we discussed on my last chat, are not right. They're left-wing fucking socialists, but they were carrying tiki torches and walking around the center of town and chanting all this stuff while a bunch of anti-Trumpers and Antifa types were on the other side. But there was a bunch of like 3%ers and a couple other groups that just went there and created a physical barrier with their bodies between the two groups to stop bad shit from happening. And they were more successful than the cops were at that point because there was more of them. And that's what you need. You need people who are going to go to a situation and say, "Look, we're not here to start shit, but we're going to make sure nothing happens." Period. Because you bunch of fucking fascist pussies who are saying you're anti-fascist when you're using fascist tactics. No. You don't get to fucking pull people out of their cars. You don't get to beat people's windows in and direct traffic. No, you stay on your side of the sidewalk, motherfucker. All right? And at the same time, if any racist motherfuckers want to show up and start some shit, fuck you too. We need people who can play the middle and because the cops aren't fucking doing it in places like this. The cops aren't doing it. The politicians aren't doing it. Over there on the left coast, they love the left-tardedness of all this shit.
It's true.
Yeah.
You need people who are going to stand up and say, no, if nobody else is going to fucking make sure that bad shit doesn't happen, then I'm going to do it. And I'm going to grab 100 of my friends and we're going to do it. And we're not going to go there and start shit. And just like, again, wherever it was when this happened, if somebody can look it up again, I don't remember. I keep wanting to say Charleston, but I don't think it was. They didn't do anything. They stood there. They held their ground. They didn't talk shit. They weren't there chanting anything. They didn't bring signs. They stood there, silent, right next to each other, saying, "No, we're not going to allow this to get out of hand."
Was this the one where they stood in line, kind of like shoulder to shoulder, and one face one side, one face the other.
Yes, and they were going against both sides. They were not. A lot of people on the left tried to blame them for, they're there protecting the racists. No, they weren't. They were not there. They were not defending the racists. They stood up and they said, we are going to stop this. They had half of them facing the racists, half of them facing the Antifa wannabes, and that was it. They stood up.
I remember that.
And they weren't antagonizing either side. They weren't talking shit. They didn't carry signs stating their opinions on any political issues. They just stood there and said, somebody's got to do it. The cops can't do it. Cops aren't doing it. There were some cops there, but they couldn't do that. So you had, I want to say, and from the pictures I saw, it had to be 100, 200 people that showed up to just be there to help make sure that nothing bad happened. That's what you need. You need shit like that. I'm sorry, Night Strike. What other topics did you have?
You pretty much ran that one to the ground. All right. Travis, the last topic tonight was the one you posted, I think, about the NRA.
Oh, yeah. They got a budget shortfall, and now they're laying off people on the staff, and only brought in
specifically the NRA TV. Their TV part side of the NRA is laying off staff because apparently they have a $55 million revenue shortfall.
So basically, what they're saying is they're giving bonuses out this year, but in order to get the bonuses, they got to cut people. Gotcha.
Basically, because Wayne LaPierre ain't taking a fucking pay cut. That's for sure.
Right.
They only brought in $250 million this year and not $300 million this year. So that's really
damn
good.
It. That's such a shame.
So
how many representatives they have in our Capitol buildings again? None. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. Moving on. Next.
So that Noir guy may have to find another job.
Uh-oh.
Goes with Gun Owners of America.
Isn't he in Texas? He's in Texas.
I don't know where he is.
He lives in the Dallas metro area. Yeah.
Okay.
He used to be.
I think I just found that out recently. Like, I didn't know he was in Texas until like in the last few weeks.
Matt, you got to try to check out that range that he goes to. It's pretty sweet, man. Well, no, I'm sorry. It's a long ways away from where you're at, but it's in the.
That's only like 10 hours away from me.
No,
so I think I can make it. I can make a weekend of it.
You're not in Nebraska. You're in Texas. That's like 10 Nebraskas put together. Yeah.
Nebraskas. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So all it is, all the article is just them the NRA is just complaining that they didn't make as many millions of dollars this year because I don't know because they've been in fan of bump stock bans and in favor of legislating this or that gun owners don't want to see.
Maybe if they got off their ass and quit calling people and asking for money and actually went and fucking did something, people would give them money.
Probably, yeah, but that's not going to happen.
It's funny on their tax status are listed as a not-for-profit. So it's got to suck having an extra $200 million.
Where were they in Washington when Washington passed these ridiculous laws? Where were they putting money? They should have been there. If they want to prove their worth, they want to prove their value. They have to realize that the field has changed. It's no longer about national legislation. It hasn't been since 2013. It's about states going and turning on their citizens and taking gun rights away. It's about California, Washington, Massachusetts, Vermont, Colorado. It's about these states coming in and passing ridiculous laws. Where's the NRA? The NRA keeps saying, we're fighting the good fight. You're not doing shit because nobody's trying to pass anything federally. And on a state level, you're not doing shit. So what are you getting paid to do? That's essentially your job. People pay you to protect their rights. Not that they should. I don't believe they should. I don't believe you should pay anybody to protect your rights. But that's essentially that's what you advertise yourself as. That's what you say you're doing, but you're not doing anything. You're not doing a damn thing. If you would have just gone and dropped $1 million worth of advertising in Washington to show how ridiculous some of this shit was that they were trying to pass. Did you do it? No. No, you didn't. No, you fucking didn't. They're a useless organization. They're just there to make money for themselves. That's it. Period.
Mm-hmm. But
I'm sorry.
I think you got a phone call, Matt.
Hey, Nice Strike. I'm gonna head on over to 2A Tuesday to help John get going. So I'm gonna go ahead and duck out. But you guys all take care, man. Have a nice night. Thanks for the invite, dude. I appreciate it, man.
No problem.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
So-
Have a good one.
I'm going to run through the room, and we're going to let everyone make their plugs. And I guess it's about time for us to head on out of here. So, AWAG.
Thanks for the invite. Sorry I was 6 minutes late today. Again.
Well, you were more than 6 minutes late, but we won't hold it against you.
Yeah, it was 6 minutes. I got in here at 9:05. So
yeah. So
but thanks for the invite anyway. I guess check out my channel, AWAG 1000. Look for my bright, sunny yellow face.
And coming soon, to South Carolina, Nightwagon Gunworks.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm really distraught right now. I'm not having a good day, so that's why I've been trying to keep quiet today.
Yeah, well, you do live in one of those states that would go after you for that. So. All right, Foos, you jumped in here at kind of the last minute and commented. How's it going?
Hi. Everything's going good. Had to make a quick trip about an hour and a half away to pick up some brass for the business. So have you decided? Have you gotten any further with that business yet? So I have my 01, 06. Technically, I am open for business. I have about 3,000 rounds made up, box ready to go. I'm actually looking into shipping boxes right now, and I'm still looking for insurance, liability insurance. So,
all right,
yeah. So, fun stuff. I got about 90,000 pieces of brass shipped today. So I'll be cleaning that for a while.
If you could tumble the brass in using a cement mixer. Just saying.
I have one.
So you did get one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
it's still gonna be a bit.
It's gonna take hours upon hours.
Yeah.
You could always send it out to all of us, and we'll help clean it for you.
Yeah, right.
So I could do right around a 5-gallon bucket at a time. And if I run each one for a couple hours, that would be about 24 hours of constant cleaning.
Right. All right.
And then let alone I need to find a way to dry it. So
that's always the hard part.
Yeah.
Oven works fine, man. Oven works good, literally. An oven works fine.
Oh, I've thought about that. I don't want to use my oven. So I kind of like use it for food and shit, and I don't want gas in there. But yeah.
Moving on, Gary. Thanks for showing up. Got anything you want to plug? Gary, you there?
Give him the bird.
Catnip.
Oh, that's it.
He's just trying to figure out how he can eat more Night Strike's pizza.
All right, Boomer, you still there?
Yeah, it's still here.
All right, thanks for showing up. Are you doing anything on your channel yet?
No, I'm actually filming. I've got a couple of things. I had one thing that I was working on that I was really looking forward to, fell through from another end. But working on something, worked a little bit on it today. Switched to day shift so I could yesterday and today. So I'm trying to get that worked on, but it's slow going. And but I'll get that done. But thanks for the invite to everybody. Check out everybody's pages and channels and programs that they're putting out there, and like those pages and content. Appreciate it.
All right. And we don't need to ask Matt because everybody knows Matt. Matt's already famous.
My name is Matt. I have a YouTube channel.
There you go.
There you go. All right, Sarge.
Yes, sir.
thanks for showing up. You got anything you want to plug?
I just plugged my latest video. I threw it up in the chat there. If anybody could see it, watch it, like it. That's it. I got some stuff I'm doing tomorrow. It's starting to snow here, so we'll see.
Bastard.
I mean, there's already 1/8 of an inch. I'm sure they're going to call off school. So.
Oh yeah.
Wait! It's snowing in North Carolina.
It is snowing in North Carolina, or it snowed. My SUV has snow on it, but
it was 77 degrees here today.
77. It was chilly. I think the warmest I saw it here was 37.
God damn it! Why do I live in South Texas?
Supposed to be 17 by morning.
It was like in the 50s, 60s here today. So
Yeah. So like I said, I appreciate the invite, and I got some stuff to work on tomorrow. And if anybody didn't watch the pre-chat, go over to Facebook and watch it when it comes back on.
So we're sitting here in Arkansas in the mid-20s.
Fuck you, Foos.
It's 30 right now.
Okay, so I have to ask, Scotsman, how cold is it where you live?
We've had snow and ice rain for pretty much the last 2 weeks. So literally, I think, was it Sunday was the warmest day we've had in 2 weeks. I think it hit 50 on Sunday. But it has been roughly about in the low 30s pretty much for the last couple weeks.
All right. All right, and for anyone that doesn't know, check Scotsman out every Sunday night with Alan B. Pro, the YouTuber formerly known as Janice Gay for foreign and domestic. So with that, I want to thank everyone for showing up. Everyone, make sure to check out nightstrike.com. You know, I've got stickers for sale still. If anyone wants a Night Strike sticker, check out guntube.org. And with that, we'll see you next time, guys. So thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Oh, yeah. We shall go now.
Yeah, we go. Bye-bye.
We go now.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Shut up, infringed!
Got my ear.